Good afternoon, friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. And on this show, uh, this week's show is called Our Ways, Our Days, Our Ways. Excuse me. And this is the day after our local Juneteenth celebration. The holiday was the day before yesterday, Friday. Um, that's the National Juneteenth holiday. And yesterday we had our Juneteenth celebration locally here in San Antonio. But this is what I want to talk about. It's a lot of communication and conversations going on about the Juneteenth and mainly surrounding the Juneteenth flag. And so I want to engage with this conversation with y'all. We do three things. Um, we celebrate things. We celebrate days. There's celebration. There's commercialization, and there's capitalization. That happens with a lot of the things that we want to celebrate. There's commercialization and there's capitalization. And celebration is basically acknowledging. You could celebrate days in whichever way you want or you wish. You could celebrate it by doing nothing at all, taking off of work, or if it's a holiday, you could just say, if you're celebrating a holiday, some people just don't do anything. That's their way of celebrating. We all celebrate in different ways. We have different communities that celebrate things in different ways. I'm talking about different black communities in different places. They celebrate things, and some don't acknowledge it at all. So they don't really celebrate it. They just take the day off. And you'll see that when it's a national holiday. Those that's not part of our culture, they may say, well, I don't celebrate MLK Day, but you have the day off. And so that's um, how this nation celebrates it. But as individual groups and communities, they celebrate days in different ways. And celebration is just acknowledging the days. Sometimes people may say, well, hey, let's throw a party, let's throw a block party, let's organize something, let's in a park or whatever you want to do. Sometimes it's not even a whole community thing, it's just a group or individuals doing something for a certain day. So, what days is it that we celebrate in the black community? Can you think of the days that I'm talking about the whole black community, not just your community, that you know of that they do this all across America? Or maybe just a state holiday that they do all across your state. Now, I know we have MLK Day. That's probably the biggest black holiday, single day that we celebrate across America. And you have Black History Month, something else that we celebrate. It's not a certain day, but we celebrate the month and we acknowledge it in a certain way. Many of us don't acknowledge it at all. Some of us say we don't need a Black History Month, and many of us do. We celebrate it, we acknowledge it. We do certain things for Black History Month. We go to certain events. We we dress a certain way. We try to be more Afrocentric. Some of us try to be more pro-black. We separate. Sometimes we have dissension amongst our ranks in our community. Some people say, you can't fit black history in a month, and it's not about African history. This is not about um, anything but the black history in the United States. So, I mean, we have a lot of, this is our ways. This is what I'm talking about. Some of our ways is sometimes we have this discontent about the things that we celebrate and some of the things we do. And sometimes we have discontent because others don't celebrate it that look like us and we think that they should. This is just our ways. This is what happens in the black community. We have Black History Month, and people go back and forth about that. And then we have Juneteenth. And somewhat people go back and forth. Mainly we just celebrate Juneteenth. And some people in our community will say, well, why are y'all sitting up celebrating people freeing you from slavery? But sometimes they'll sit around and be saying free Tyrone and celebrate the day that this person gets out of jail or prison or whatnot. It's a release date. People have no problems with seeing it in that perspective. You get out of prison, you celebrate. You get out, you haven't understood being out of slavery. That's something to celebrate. But this is our ways. This is our days. and these are our ways. So those are the three main times that I think that we celebrate in unison in the black community. And you have different places that celebrate things different ways. They celebrate different days and they see them different in different ways. In my, um, I wonder why. Why is it like that? I talked to my daughter who lives in Atlanta earlier this year. I was asking her, so what are they doing there for Martin Luther King Day? Because here in San Antonio we had the biggest celebration, and she said they don't really do much, and I thought that was odd, and it struck me as odd because Martin Luther King is from Atlanta, Georgia. This is his home city, not just his home state, his home city, and they don't do much, and it's a vast black population there, way more than we have here in San Antonio. Now, the percentage of the city is way higher than it is in San Antonio. But they don't do that much, for Martin Luther King Day. But we in Texas, San Antonio, not even the large black populated city in comparison to Dallas and Houston and maybe even Austin, we have the biggest celebration in the nation. So I was like thinking, I thought about that. I'm like, that's interesting. And I was wondering why. And then I came to my conclusion, my perspective on it is, even coming from Buffalo, New York, where I came from, I'm a transplant to Texas. I came from Buffalo, New York. Martin Luther King Day, it was a park. It's the Martin Luther King Day Park in Buffalo. It was a celebration. It was a nice size celebration. It wasn't a march. It was a celebration. Um, and it wasn't the biggest celebration that I remember growing up. When I was growing up, the biggest celebration that I saw as a kid in Buffalo, New York was Juneteenth celebration. And I came to San Antonio. I used to visit San Antonio as a kid. I used to come visit my grandparents down here. Sometime me and my sister would come during the summer. Um, so I never really experienced, it may not have been June, so I didn't know if they were doing it. I thought every black community was celebrating Juneteenth the way that we did it. But I hadn't been to other black communities doing the Juneteenth to know that, to solidify that. But this is just something I thought I grew up with. Back in the late 70s, it was like a massive thing. It started there earlier than that, but I mean, every year it was a big thing going up the Jefferson Street, and it was the street was blocked off. It was floats, cars, people marching, bands, all of these things. Um, I came to San Antonio. When we moved to San Antonio, I would ask my friends, "What are y'all doing for Juneteenth?" And they was like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like, Juneteenth. And I thought maybe I was saying it with an accent or something. They didn't understand me. They're like, "What are you saying?" Like, and I would say June and Teenth. And they was many of them, my friends. Nobody was doing anything here in San Antonio for Juneteenth. Many people that I talked to didn't even know what Juneteenth was. And I'm talking about my peers. When I have family, I have a big family here. Now I got in a discussion on social media about this because someone that was born here that I know, they made comments about Juneteenth and um, about things. They had discontentment about what was happening, the flag and whatnot. And I want to get into all of that. But my thing is, I brought that to that person's on that person's post. I brought my perspective. I like it's odd to me because I came to Texas and people, and I'm talking about San Antonio, Texas. Now, I later found out that they do celebrate. They have been celebrating it in Galveston, Texas. It's a big celebration there, not far from Houston. Um, but my thing was, I didn't see the celebration here. It was no parades. It was no. If people were doing it, it's probably a church acknowledging it here, or it's people doing something there, But it wasn't anything in the black community, and I was in the heart of the east side of the black community. No one was talking about Juneteenth or doing anything for Juneteenth or acknowledging or celebrating Juneteenth. It was no red, black, and green. It was none of that. And to me, that was odd. So now looking at it years later, that I'm hearing people talk about the Juneteenth as if it's always been something that has been celebrated here locally. And it hasn't. That's what I was bringing my perspective on. It's like it's odd that we're talking about it like that when it was a time we didn't even acknowledge it here, or it wasn't even acknowledged here. And this is way before it became a holiday. So we celebrate things differently, different ways, different days, different ways. And up in New York, the thing is, and this is what I told that person, or I told people even back then, I say up there in New York, the Juneteenth was about the Texas slaves, which were the last slaves that was released. Remember, slavery had been abolished in the North way before the Civil War. The Civil War was about the states that succeeded from the nation to keep slavery going, because the slaves were trying to escape up north for freedom, because up north it was no slavery anymore. So people up in New York celebrating the Juneteenth, they could have been celebrating whatever day or whatever time frame that they were emancipated or released, where slavery was abolished at their time. It was happening different at times in different states. So the whole thing about it being a Juneteenth, that should have been mainly a Texas celebration, but it wasn't. It was a celebration for black people in America, period, because the mindset was, I had my freedom, but not all of us was free. So we're not going to celebrate, whatever date that we actually was freed in our state, because it was already it was still people in bondage and they hadn't been freed yet. So we are celebrating when everyone was free, not just me, type of mindset. And I brought that up to that person. I said, because they were talking about different places that don't do Juneteenth, or they don't acknowledge it. It's not even for them, actually. If they do it, that's a bonus and a plus. Because if I'm not going to celebrate when my brother got out of prison, if I got out of prison 10 years before that, that's my celebration day. Or I could say, you know what, I'm not even going to celebrate until all of us are free. And that's what's happening. I was just bringing that perspective, which I got not from the person that posted. I got some flack back from someone else that engaged in the conversation. But all of this conversation about who celebrates, why we celebrate, how we celebrate seems odd to me. Now, when I had the conversation with my daughter about Martin Luther King Day not being as big in Atlanta, I thought about that when I was talking about New York. Or some people say, well, even in New York City, it's not that like a big thing like it is in other places. And from my perspective, it depends on the different levels of consciousness of that area. If you go up to places, Detroit, Chicago, maybe New York, Philadelphia, they are more conscious about their black history, or the individuals or who they deem as heroes in their history. They may not regard Martin Luther King as the greatest civil rights activist, or the greatest black martyr in black history. They may see Malcolm X, or they may see Garvey, or they may be looking at Douglass, or they may be looking at Booker T, Washington, or whomever, or other people, freedom fighters that's not even highly acclaimed. They may be looking at Black Panther Party people, because that's their mindset. It's a whole bunch of us. And I think some levels of it, in some places, they're going off of the elementary Black History Month heroes that it was given to us. We have Martin Luther King, we have Rosa Parks, and Frederick Douglass, basically. They didn't talk about W.E.B. Du Bois. They didn't talk about Garvey. A lot of places in the South, they wasn't learning about that in school, and that was the limit that they had. So Martin Luther King was the greatest thing, and that's what this country wanted us to believe and feel, because they wanted us to turn the other cheek. They wanted us to be peaceful and all these things like this. They taught us that these other people were radicals. So places that's more conscious don't see Martin Luther King as the top of the mountain, the pinnacle, and all these things like this. They acknowledge him, but they acknowledge the other people the same. So what they're going to do, have a holiday for everybody, or not just a holiday, an official holiday, but celebrate everyone the same? So this is what my thinking was, my perspective on why there's different levels of celebration among the black community in different places. So it's who they gave us versus who we know about. I have a whole lot of heroes, um, and y'all see Martin Luther King is not even up on my wall, and I'm not just omitting him. I mean, I acknowledge the great things that he's done, but this is a revolutionary type show. And these are the people, or some of the people. This is not even all of the people that I'm going to acknowledge, and maybe I will put Martin up there, and some other people. But I think it's levels of consciousness that people celebrate, or what they don't know they can't celebrate. So we have certain heroes that we put at the pinnacle, and we have these big celebrations. So that's the only thing I could come up with. But it was odd to me, and I still really haven't wrapped my head around why Atlanta wouldn't have a big celebration for Martin Luther King. But maybe they celebrate him all the time. His house is there. The church that he preached at is there, so they could go and they could commemorate him and celebrate him constantly. So that's what I think. So we celebrate. We have celebration. The next thing we do, we have commercialization. And when we have commercialization, we have capitalization. And these are things that many of us see as a problem. When we see our holidays, we say, man, it's been commercialized. They're capitalizing off of our holiday or whatever. And the difference between commercialization and capitalization is capitalization refers to securing the funding of something or a practice, or spreading the major assets to whom the wealth, spreading the wealth. You capitalize it. Either you're profiting off of something, that's capitalization, or you're spreading it among your community or your business or whatever. That's capitalization. Commercialization is the process of taking an idea or a product and launching it to the public to generate profit. Now, if you think about that, that's commercialization. People say, well, they commercialized Martin Luther King Day. They commercialized Juneteenth. That's a good thing. That's what we wanted. They commercialized Black History Month. Black History Month was made for us, by us, to learn our history. I believe the first time that the government, the White House acknowledged Black History Month or week was, I think, maybe Henry Ford said something. He mentioned it. Like, they wouldn't even say it, like as if it didn't exist. But we didn't care. We celebrated it. You didn't have to be off from work. It didn't have to be a holiday. But it was like, this is for us. And this is something that we're doing. Just like Juneteenth, it was for us, something that we were doing. We didn't care whomever else was going to celebrate it. We didn't care if you acknowledged. You could come to the parade. It was white people in the Juneteenth parade sometime in Buffalo, going down Jefferson Street. You could look at the old YouTube videos, 1978, Buffalo, New York, Juneteenth, and it was a big celebration. Whole avenue was shut down, and people marching and dancing and bands playing and people playing the drums and all these type of things. People they had red, black, and green. They had dashikis on. People were selling. It was vendors out there on the side of the road. Everything that you will see here for Martin Luther King Day march that culminates in a park. Commercialization is good because that means that you're getting the word out. If you have a business or organization or an event, what you would love to have is people to know about it, especially the people that you need to know about it, that you want to come. You have a commercial. You commercialize it. You send it out. And many of us think of commercialization as a bad thing. Oh, well, they're talking about it at Walmart, or they're talking about it at Target or whatever. And you would want an event that you have that you're trying to put out. You will want the word to get put out. So that's what commercialization is, the process of taking an idea or a product and launching it into the public to generate profit. The more people that know about it, the more you can profit off of it if you are taking advantage of the capitalization of it. Commercialization is just letting people know so you could profit off of it. Sometimes it's an event that you don't have vendors, It may be a free event, but you want as many people there as possible to know about what you're doing. And that's not a bad thing. But many times we speak of it as if it's a bad thing. So now we have people saying, well, Juneteenth has been commercialized and all these things like this. Um, I want to appreciate some of y'all that showed up. We have Sakina Saladin. She said, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Walaikum assalam, sister. Aisha Ray say that's why a lot of people on New York are shocked that it's just became a holiday, because to us it's always been a holiday. And this is someone that came up in Buffalo, New York, that's talking like that. I was shocked when I came to Texas. I was like, y'all not celebrating like black people? Like, what's wrong? Like, and Ladae Bishop, she came in. She said, "Hey, Kevin," and Sharon Simpson Anderson saying, "Yes, we all have different levels of knowledge and consciousness, and celebrate in different ways. Some of us celebrate with spreading knowledge and versus party, and I appreciate that. That's a very good comment. That's what we do. Some people just like some people are against Black History Month for some reason. Some people that look like us are, well, you only do it for certain, this time of month. I'm like, people start off different ways. Maybe that's their time to say, well, this is what's happening. I'm going to be a part of that. I want to know what's going on. Peer pressure. Hey, do you know about this? Do you know about this person? Do you know about whomever? Did you know that we invented this? And the absorbing of knowledge is a great thing as far as I'm concerned, no matter what the reason is. But there's other, so we, my history with Juneteenth came from at a higher point, and it came from a non-existent point. But now, yesterday, of course, for the last, I think it became an official celebration in San Antonio like 9 years ago. I think 1997. That's officially they started having a parade and things like that. But that was also my my conversation on social media. Now I'm gonna say this. There's a presentation by Born Logic Allah, the brother I know. He put out a presentation. I posted on my page, and it's talking about the flag, the Juneteenth flag versus the red, black, and green flag. This is a great presentation that he put up, and I implore y'all to go. If y'all could go on my page, go look at it, check it out. It's a great dissertation about his opinion about the Juneteenth flag. So the Juneteenth celebration. They have a flag. Many of us didn't know that. Many people didn't know that. Many people don't care. The flag didn't become something. Is it official? Is it an official flag? Yeah, it is. It's an official flag. Who made it official? The history of that flag. We've been celebrating Juneteenth here in America for decades. I believe it's like over 50 years up there in Buffalo. I don't know how many other places have been celebrating it before that, but the Juneteenth, I believe they came up on their 50-year anniversary sometime recently. But there was somebody called Ben Haith who came up with the Juneteenth flag in 1997. They called him Boston Ben. He was from Boston, Massachusetts, I'm guessing, or living in Boston, Massachusetts. He was an activist, a black activist, all into the Juneteenth. Boston, that, like I'm saying, put things into a certain perspective. They already had their freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation that happened after the war to free the slaves. You had they came up. The government said, we're going to end slavery. The South was like, the hell with that. We're succeeding from the nation. We're going to fight y'all for it. The fight ensued, the Civil War. The South lost. The slaves were freed, except they weren't freed all at once. They were releasing the slaves state by state. And Texas was the last state to release its slaves. And they sent General Order Number 3 down to Texas. They had the color guard, like the black troop, they color guard came down there, and they was going to plantation to plantation, letting the slaves know that you are free. I don't care what they're telling you, you are free. So they got the word like 2 years late. They got the word, I guess, in June. So, and they don't know the exact date, because it wasn't any exact date, because they were going plantation to plantation. So slaves were being freed in the process. And it all happened, I guess the last ones were freed in the teens of June. So they just called it Juneteenth. They made it a holiday. Um, so this is what I'm going to talk about now. So this guy, Ben Haith, he had been celebrating this in his local black community in Massachusetts, Boston. And he came up with a flag. He's like, we don't have a flag. Now, like I said, this was in 1997. He got with Elisa Jean Graff, who's an illustrator, and he gave his idea to Miss Graff. She was an illustrator. He said, this is what I have. He picked out symbols and colors for a certain reason. There's a reasoning behind the symbols and colors, and it's a red, black, and blue color scheme with a star, and it has different things, and each of them have a reason for it. I'm not going to bore y'all with all the reason for it. But he had, it wasn't just he just threw something together. He thought it out. And the thing about it is each thing symbolized, the star was the Texas star, the Lone Star State. That's what they call Texas. It was a republic at once. And they had a single star. And that was part of the Juneteenth flag that he wanted to bring forth. In the flag, because it's mainly about the last slaves being freed, and he gave the color representation of red, black, and blue because of this is the American flag's colors also. So why would he do that? And I know my brother Logic, he was saying he's like, why would you do that? If y'all look at his presentation, it's very good. Now I understand his saying or his perspective on it, but this is the perspective of the person that came up with it. Other people say it's always been red, black, and green. Oh, did I say something different? Sharon Anderson said red, white, and blue. Yeah, it's red, white, and blue. I'm sorry, because he was saying that's the American flag, red, white, and blue. He used the same colors. The symbol of the star was from Texas and things like this. So the red, black, and blue, that's the flag, the colors of the Juneteenth flag. And if you can look it up, it's reasoning to all the symbols and the colors. And people said, and even my brother Logic said, and it's always been red, black, and green. Now, if you're going back in the day, it would have been red, black, and green because that was the only flag that we had to symbolize blackness. The Garvey flag, the Pan-African flag. So when we fly the red, black, and green, that's pro-black. That's many times Afrocentric. The red, black, and green flag that Garvey, the Pan-African flag, is Pan-African. That means for wherever you're at, Jamaica, Panama, Brazil, the USA, Canada, this is something that unifies all of us. Symbolism, Africa, this is us, all of us, not your individual flag in Nigeria, not your flag in Sudan. This is all of us around the globe. This is the Pan-African flag. So Ben Haith didn't want that flag. He said that's not the flag for us being released from slavery, because that flag incorporates everyone. The people in Brazil, their release date, I'm gonna say release date of slavery is not the same as it was for us. The people in Jamaica, the people in Haiti, it's not the same as us. So this is the reasoning that he said, I'm not going to use the red, black. He saw the people was using the red, black, and green, but he said, no, that's Pan-Africanism. I'm talking about American African people being released from slavery. So we need our own thing that separates us from this, and this meaning of something that Garvey came up with. When he came to America, and we was already free in the early 1900s. His flag means something totally different. So Ben Haith came up with his own flag with the colors on it that symbolizes African Americans. I mean, we could see a problem with that, or we not. Now, some people say, well, what gives him the right to do it? Nothing. No one gave him a right to come up with a Juneteenth flag. No one at all gave him a right to come up with a concept of what he thought a flag was, except it was ratified by the NJOF. Now, who's the NJOF? That's the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. They started in 1994. in New Orleans, Louisiana. And they partnered with all the local states Juneteenth organizations that you may have had in Texas, you may have had in Virginia, you may have had in Georgia. They were networking with all these people, and they started an organization to observe an observance foundation for the Juneteenth. This is when we all going to get together. June the 19th is the day that we're going to celebrate and commemorate the releasing of the slaves. Y'all do it on the 15th. No, let's do it all in unison. This is an organization that was formed. The president of the organization, Stephen Williams, ratified Ben Haif's flag. He came and then he said, hey, y'all are the organization that's working with the whole nation of black people on Juneteenth. I have a flag. This is my concept. They accepted it. People say, well, who gave them the right? Nobody gave them the right to come up with it, but who ratified it? Someone that many of us don't even know exists. There's an organization, a national organization for the Juneteenth. The national organization that spearheaded and served for national awareness and recognition by each state to acknowledge and celebrate one day for the Juneteenth celebration. This is also the group that tried to get a holiday by the government to it. They went to the government to acknowledge this day that we set forth to celebrate Juneteenth. This is an organization that did it. And then it became a national holiday in June the 21st, 2021. 7 years after the organization was formed. They made it a national holiday. They helped to make it. They spearheaded the movement to make it a national holiday. They presented it. They're speaking on the behalf of the local organizations in each state that had Juneteenth organizations. This became the centerpiece. Their president, many of us never heard of him. He ratified the flag. This is an organization for the Juneteenth that had their own flag that said, yeah, we need a flag. Let's use this flag. We don't want to use the red, black, and green because that's not just our flag. You can't grab a flag that's meant for everybody and make it just for you. That's what we were doing because we didn't have a flag. So people say, yeah, well, it's always been red, black, and green. But you don't understand what the red, black, and green means. You could say, well, that means black power. In a way, it can mean that. Black power organizations can use that. But if you're using that, you have to understand that's a Pan-African flag. That doesn't just mean your organization. That doesn't just mean American black people or the black people in America. This means a Pan-African perspective of Jamaicans, Haitians, Cubans, black African Mexicans, wherever you're from. This is for all of us. So they wanted something to just be isolated to their movement and what happened to us. Now we have a backlash because people are like, who the hell are they? Who the hell is this guy? But you're not doing your homework. This is our ways. This is what we do. Our ways is we have discontent without engagement or involvement. You don't go to your local, wherever you're at. No one goes to any local Juneteenth organization or the state Juneteenth organization and talks to them or saying, I want to be a part of this, or I want to know what's going on, or I want to donate to this, or do whatever. We just celebrate however we're going to celebrate. And sometimes we don't celebrate. No one organizes it, or no one, I'm not going to say no one, because if no one did it, there would be no organization and celebrations going on. But there is. And it didn't just happen because the government made it a holiday. We were doing it way before it became a holiday, decades before it became a holiday. So it had nothing to do with the government. That's just them acknowledging it. And you know what? Damn it, you should acknowledge it. This is your history too, as far as I'm concerned. This is perspective. And Sharon, I appreciate Marlena showing up. I appreciate the sentiment sister. And Sharon Simpson Anderson said that once again, different levels of knowledge and consciousness. We're fighting amongst ourselves. And that's just what the point is. That's why I wanted to have the show. These are our days, but intertwined with our ways. So it's all, and I understand if you're not acknowledging that, you don't understand, if you're not haven't been engaged in what's happening, or if you don't understand what's happening, or you're putting up that red, black, and green flag, you're thinking that's not just black power. You could say that's my mindset. I'm pro-black, but you understand what pro-black means. That doesn't mean pro-black American. That means pro-black, period, around the globe. And if you want something, now you could say, well, maybe he should have used red, black, and green colors. Okay, yeah, maybe he should have. But the reasoning is because he wanted to separate it. He could have put red, black, and green with American, the country, the outline of American country. Yeah, we could have, but why didn't you do that? Why didn't you have an organization that did that? Why didn't you submit something to the NJOF? Because we don't know, many of us don't even know that it exists. And we didn't even know that it did exist. We didn't know that okay, like I'm going to ask a question. The NAACP, they have a logo. Do you know what flag they fly outside of their New York headquarters? It's a white and black flag. Most of the time it's white and black. They fly it outside of the New York headquarters. Many of us don't know. Many of us don't care. They have a flag that says a man was lynched yesterday. That's what the flag says. It's just wording. And they hang that outside of their headquarters in New York. But we don't know that, but it'd be crazy for us to sit up and talk about someone, they come up with a new flag and we talk about, well, I don't like the NAACP. You didn't know about the old one. You never even cared about it, having a flag. So if people, and the thing about it having a flag, the Juneteenth doesn't have a logo. There's no official logo for the Juneteenth. You can have shirts with anything you want on it. A black fist, whatever, the colors that you want. There's many logos that people use because there's no official logo. But if the organization for it has their flag, what problem is it to us? We don't even have to acknowledge that flag. We don't have, just like some people don't acknowledge holidays. You don't even have to celebrate that flag. You don't even have to use that flag for your celebration. But they have their own flag. But the thing is, we have discontentment in our holidays. Some people like, when I first went to Martin Luther King Day, March, recently, I think I went like way back in the days. It was different. Then when I went more recently, in the last decade, the first time I have been, I was kind of disappointed. Me and my cousin went, and I was expecting something different. But that's me. That's just me. I was like, man, I was like, the people say commercialized, and I was looking at all of those different vendors. Many of them I didn't feel was black, and it should have been black. So I kind of grew out of that because that's not what King was about. King was not about pro-black. King was about unification. He was about black, white, brown, yellow, and everybody being together. So I understand why they may have had people, they can't say, well, this is only for black people. Now we're talking about capitalization. Because my mindset was, you know what? Why is it not just black vendors up here? This is for us. This is about us. This is our leader. But this is not how our leader thought. So as I sat back and I thought about it, I'm like, okay, King would have wanted it like that. He had his organization had white people in it. He was against the pro-black youth movement that was coming up because he felt that may offend white people or non-black people. He thought that black power meant taking power, or just black power, just black people being in power. Now, he didn't understand it. He eventually did because he met with Stokely Carmichael and his assistant that was talking about black power. And they met at their house. He sent them, he said, come to my house and let's talk about it. I want to know what this stuff is about because it's spreading amongst the youth. I'm losing my following amongst the young people because they're following the pro-black movement. So he did, after a while, he did embrace it and understand it. But with us, our ways, like I said, Juneteenth, people like, we have some, why are you celebrating? Oh, y'all Negroes sitting up there celebrating being released from slavery. You know, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, we do that. This is our ways. People say, well, it's commercial. Commercialization, like I gave the definition, it's about not just getting the word out. It's getting it out so you can profit from it. And it's just not monetary profit. Profit is benefiting. Just like Black History Month, you benefit from the knowledge. It's not about, I could sit up and read a book that I've never read about a person that did some extraordinary thing, a black person in America, and I'm not getting any monetary gain from that, but I am getting a profit. It is profiting me mentally and intellectually, educating me about something that I didn't know. That's a profit also. So when I talk about commercialization is getting the word out to the general public for profit, it means that you can profit in a way of benefiting mentally from what's going on. And this is what I think the commercialization of Juneteenth is about, us benefiting in a mental way sometimes. And then if we should, and when you benefit from it and the word is getting out to a lot of people about this thing that's happening, this celebration that we having about Juneteenth, maybe you're going to wonder what it is about. What is Juneteenth about? And why are we celebrating it? You could teach that to kids. You could teach that to adults. Why are we celebrating it? Like I said, when I came here, they wasn't celebrating it. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe people didn't, wasn't being commercialized like that amongst our community. Commercialization doesn't mean going to white America or brown America. It means even commercialize it in our own community. And it wasn't commercialized in the black community here in San Antonio when I was coming here, when I was a young teen here, when I was an older teen here. It wasn't celebrated like that. So the commercialization of it benefited us. And it benefits you so that you can, or maybe you can, control the capitalization of it locally. If there's some to be made, we should be the ones capitalizing off of it. And I'm not just talking about benefiting, I'm talking about capitalizing the gains of it. When I go to a Juneteenth celebration, if it's vendors out there, it should be us taking control of those who are the vendors so that they could profit our black businesses. This is our fault if we're not capitalizing off of our days. If we're letting others capitalize off of, just like my brother always talk about Black History Month. People going to Walmart to buy dashikis or whatever, the flea market, buying it from Asian people. That's your fault. You can't stop them from selling it, but you'll stop them from making a profit off of it if we don't patronize it. You let them buy their own stuff about us, and then we're benefiting. You're posing the look. Okay, you're buying your look from people that look like you. That's fine, but you're not getting it. We're not buying it from you. That's us. That's on us. And if that's a mistake that's made, then that's a mistake made by us. We should be capitalizing on it locally. Our local programs that's organizing these Juneteenth marches and everything like that, they should make sure that we are the main ones profiting. If they have vendors, then you make them vendors, hey, you pay to be part of this celebration. You pay for it. Now, to me, many people, they're not turning down money. They say, okay, I got vendors. You open it up, because once you do that, you're talking about law. You can't discriminate and stuff like that. I understand that. But what we should do, you let them pay to be a vendor there. But what I think we should do, I'm looking at who's behind that table, what company it is. And if it don't look like us, this is our event. This is our day. And this should be our ways. You don't look like us, we're not going to patronize you. I'm not going to spend my money with somebody that's outside of our community. Now, if there's someone that's inside of the community and they have a good rapport in our community, they don't look like us, but they're in our community, I have no problem with that. But I'm saying if they are somebody that's outside of our community, they paid to be a vendor at one of our events for one of our celebrations, one of our days, then we should come up there and Acknowledge that. And we should be celebrating the fact that this is one of our days. And it should be capitalized by us. You shouldn't be going to Target, Walmart, or any of these other stores, the flea market, the Asian markets, to buy anything that says Juneteenth. You can't stop them. Of course they're gonna do it. They're gonna even if they're selling the Juneteenth flag, why buy a flag from them? Go buy it from us. This is what I wanted to talk about. So I appreciate everyone that showed up this week, and hopefully I have a better show for y'all next week. Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. Peace.